In 8.4, we're going to be multiplying and dividing rational expressions. So to begin with, I have a multiplication here, and they're rational because they're ratios. Notice ratios mean that you just have problems that have division in them. So the first thing that we did in class the other day, it's natural to want to cancel out x squareds, right? Like it's really tempting to do that. But we saw that if there was a subtraction sign or a plus sign in the middle between these x squareds, then they were connected with addition. And we saw the other day that division doesn't cancel that out. So we cannot just cancel out our x squareds. That's going to be bad news bears. Instead, in class we found that if we factored first, we made our lives easier. So I usually just factor the easiest things first. And when I look at x squared plus 4x minus 8, I ask myself what two things multiply to 8 and add up to 4. Now let's see, I could either do 2 and 4. Oh, or I could do 1 and 8, and neither of those things give me a 4, and that's because I wrote down the problem wrong, being silly, and it shouldn't be an 8, it should be a 5. So let me grab white out. So lesson number 1, write the problem down correctly, otherwise it's harder. It's a good lesson to learn. Also, have white out handy, another good lesson. So this is supposed to be a 5 and not an 8. All right, that's going to go better. So now I need two things that multiply to 5 and add up to 4. Well, let's see, that's obviously got to be 1 and 5. And since this is a positive 4, I know the 5 has to be positive and the 1 has to be negative. Now, when you multiply these guys, a trick is that typically something on top now is going to cancel out with these two. And so when I look to factor x squared plus x minus 20, I should see one of these factors. It's just sort of a trick of these books, these problems out of the textbook. They're pretty canned. So I'm going to put two parentheses down, x and x. I need two things that multiply to negative 20. Well, I know that's probably going to be 4 and 5. And let's see, I have a positive x, so the 5 is going to have to be positive. And notice, sure enough, I'm getting x plus 5 on top and on bottom. Can't factor 3x, but it does give me a hint as to what I should factor out of 3x minus 3x squared. I'm going to take a 3x out of here. When I take a 3x out, 3x divided by 3x is 1. And 3x goes into 3x squared, negative x times. Okay, so now I'm going to do some reducing. I've got x plus 5's reducing out. I've got the 3x's reducing out. And I have a 1 minus x here and an x minus 1. Now they're almost identical, but they're actually opposite. Notice if I did, for instance, 1 minus 5, I would get negative 4, and 5 minus 1 is positive 4. So these two things are the same, but opposite. So what I'm going to do is take a negative out of this. I'm going to factor a negative out. When I do that, it flips and becomes x minus 1, because the x was negative, now it becomes positive. The 1 was positive, now it becomes negative. It's still over x minus 1. And over here I have x plus minus 4. And then this is over 1. Okay. Now these guys cancel. I'm left with that negative out in front. And so my final answer is negative x minus 4. Or you could say negative x plus 4. So multiplying fractions, the first thing you're going to do is factor. And then you're going to reduce. And you'll write out your final answer. The other thing we did in 8.4 was divide. So for our second example, these are just examples out of the textbook. We've got 7x over 2x minus 10 divided by x squared minus 6x over x squared minus 11x plus 30. Dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. So I'm going to do 2x minus 10 over 7x times x squared minus 11x plus 30 over x squared minus 6x. Again, dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. From here, you would factor and reduce just like we did the other problem. So I would take a 2 out. On top here, I would have x and x. Let's see, I would need a minus 5 and a minus 6. On bottom, I would take an x out. And then I'm going to cancel my minus 6's. I'll cancel, let's see, anything else? Oh, nothing else cancels. And so I just rewrite the problem as 2. Since I have x minus 5 times itself, I'm going to write x minus 5 squared over 7x squared.